Welcome to the Global Wellness HQ family of podcasts. We are your international headquarters for resources and ideas and insight in relation to the 9 elements of holistic wellness. Join us as we interview local and international wellness experts and learn how you can implement and improve one element or dimension of wellness at a time. Our experts will share their practical tips on wellness in one of these core areas: emotional, intellectual, occupational, physical, environmental, financial, spiritual, social, or habitual. We created our family of podcasts as a resource for anyone who is looking to integrate the 9 elements of holistic wellness into their daily lives. Welcome to the show.
Hey everyone, welcome to a very special episode, and this is the 100th episode of the Global Wellness HQ podcast. So we're going to wrap season 1, and what better place to wrap than to say thank you. My original intention for this recording was to share people I'm grateful for, and I realized that the list is way too long, and I would really not want to miss somebody that I'm really truly grateful for. I will say, first and foremost, I am grateful for my immediate family. I'm grateful for my extended family, and that includes my community and my network. So those of you who I consider trusted friends, you're in my inner circle. I can't say enough about you. I appreciate you, and I'm really grateful for you. So thank you. And of course, a podcast is only as good as its guests. So I must take a minute and say thank you to all of my guests. Now, I'm going to thank a few of the mentors I've had over the years. And for the record, these are people that I may or may not know, but I've definitely gotten to know them through their wonderful works, whether it's books or content. And I can say with sincerity that this podcast would not have been what it is without their influence. So first and foremost, I'm going to rattle off a few names that you probably have heard of. I might get some names wrong, but definitely these are people that have had a big influence on me and my life. Stephen Covey and the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People were probably the first big impact on my life as a young man. I think I was in my early 20s when I first read his works. I loved the idea of the 7 habits, and I've tried to implement them as well as I can. Obviously, it's a journey, and I'm going to keep working on it. Now, Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People, again, a book I read in my 20s, had a huge impact on my life. Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, that definitely impacted me. It's motivated me and inspired me and helped me create masterminds in my life. Now, on to more recent findings and discoveries. Endless Referrals by Bob Burg. Without that, I would not have gone down the journey my life has gone down. Literally, I read his book and it changed how I saw things. I realized that I am not one of those people who wants to do a bunch of marketing and sales and try to convert cold leads into clients and things like that. I realized that there is another way, and that is earning referrals. So Bob Burg changed my life, and I just like to say I reached out to him way back when, in about 2013, and I just thanked him for his impact on my life. And he was so humble, and he was so kind, and he was so gracious, and he responded back. For those who don't know Bob Burg, he is just an amazing person, and I strongly encourage you to check out him and his Go Giver Alliance. Now, I can't talk about Bob Burg without talking about the book that he co-authored with the amazing John David Mann. John David Mann is one of my favorite authors, it turns out. He's co-written or ghost-written some of my favorite books, but their book, their book series, The Go Giver, has really changed how I see the world. When the world shut down with COVID, everybody said networking was dead, And somebody made the mistake of saying to me, Jeff, you can't network on Zoom. And I said, watch me. And that's been the catalyst that has changed. But when I read The Go-Giver, and The Go-Giver is never far from sight, so it's always at reach. But when I read The Go-Giver, there's a character in there called the Connector, and I didn't know how, I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I realized at that moment that's who I wanted to be. And I loved their analogy of people stand in front of the fireplace of life and say, if you give me heat, I will put some fuel on the fire. And the reality is, we need to put fuel on the fire if we want to be warm. And I think Bob and John David Mann have had some amazing analogies. The other one is networking and serving others is very much like breathing. You breathe out, you help others, you breathe in, others help you. And if you don't have both, you're not going to survive. The other analogy I really love is one of planting, tending to the crops, and then harvesting. A lot of people look at networking and say, what's in it for me? What can I get today? The reality is, networking is like harvesting. You need to plant and tend to the crops first. Now, that's a long list, but the reality is, I need to at least acknowledge two others, and I guarantee if I'm forgetting some, I had these written down, but I guarantee I'm going to forget some. John Lee Dumas, he is the original podcaster, in my opinion. In my experience, I learned how to podcast by watching John Lee Dumas, and I loved what the guy was doing. I love his passion, his dedication. I'm inspired by him, and so the fact that I started podcasting was because I many years ago took his basic podcasting course, and it's changed the trajectory of my life. So I really appreciate that. And last but not least, we have Tim Ferriss, the author of The 4-Hour Workweek. And he really impacted me because I realized, and this is the benefit of hindsight, the 4-Hour Workweek is not some crazy, unattainable goal. In fact, it should be the aspiration of everybody, because it's not about how much time we put into our work week. It's how much quality we put in, and are we doing the right things that drive our business forward. So I just want to say thank you to all of these people, and even the ones I haven't listed. You've all made a huge impact on my life. And the reason I'm expressing gratitude is I realize that it's virtually impossible to worry or feel stress when you're expressing gratitude. And I've learned by observing, I've learned from many of the studies of neuroscience, we can have a choice. We can either be grateful or we can be in a state of scarcity. I choose gratitude. I choose abundance. And as I said, I probably missed one. I'm going to add on Tony Robbins. I think I read my first one of his books way back when I was a teenager, and I've been hooked on self-development, personal growth ever since. So I guess if you look at the seeds of the adult I've become, it's through the books that I've read and absorbed and processed. There are many actual people who I know well that have influenced me as well. But I just want to take a moment and say thank you. And I will point out, I'm co-hosting, I'm facilitating, I'm speaking at the Authorpreneurs HQ. And so I have to say I'm grateful to my network, and I'm grateful to my dear friend Janine Boland, who has made this dream a reality. So to all of you, thank you. And to my parents, thank you. And to my wife and kids, thank you. You make what I do fun and worthwhile. So I hope everybody is as excited about season 2 as I am. We've had 100 episodes. I've done some solo ones, I've done some in a group, I've done some one-on-one, and I've learned something from every single guest. And believe it or not, I've learned from even my solo runs. So thank you all, and I look forward to a fun and exciting season 2.
Thank you for taking the time to listen to our show. We hope that you enjoyed this episode, and we invite you to either click the link below or scan the QR code to register and listen to other episodes of our podcast. Or if you think your business or you would be a great guest to be on our show, we're always looking for experts in one of the 9 elements of holistic wellness. We'd love to have you. You can either click the link below or you can scan the QR code and complete our speaker intake form. Thank you, and to your wellness.